on the finish line, I see the sun rise past the broken lights, through the battles and the lies. Every step I take, I'm leaving chains behind.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Week 2's wrapped up. So this is my week 2 recap on the college football season. Football is in full effect. We've got some craziness, some upsets. There's field goal posts being taken down every weekend. I feel like that's got to stop. I feel like there are cases for that. But like upsetting whomever or getting your first win or your second, like I think when you upset a top tier opponent, do as you will. School will pay that fine, I'm sure. They'll be glad to. Probably not. But we have storming the field happen every weekend, which I think storming the field's fine. Again, they're paying the fine anyways, but we start taking down field goal posts every weekend, and what are the field rush even symbol now? So week 2 wrapped up. Ohio State, the new AP poll rankings are out. Ohio State proves why they should be number 1. They went out and dominated. I think it was 70-0, something like that. They may have gave up a field goal. Ohio State, number 1. Until proven otherwise, I think Ryan Day has got a squad up there that believes in writing their own chapter. Yeah, they're going to feed off of last year's success, but they're trying to write their own story. I think that championship, there's freshmen on that team that don't have a ring. So they're all trying to come together, write their own story, and I think they're putting it together right now. They got Penn State at number 2, which I think is good. Personally, I think Penn State is flying under the radar. Are they being talked about enough? Drew Allard is still a guy. They are rushing the ball just like a James Franklin team would do. Nick Singleton, I don't know how his stats are going. Let's see. Again, it feels like they're flying under the radar. Is it because of opponent strength? I mean, Nevada and then FI. Let's see here. Rushing for Penn State. So Katron Allen, 16 carries. 13 carries for Nick Singleton. 144 for Allen. 76 for Singleton, both with a touchdown. 200 yards in the air from Drew Allen. I think they're just flying under the radar, and it could be opponent strength, even though I think FIU is a team that isn't really I don't think they're a cupcake. We could label a team. I don't think any team is considered a cupcake when we're talking college football nowadays, an NIL era. But if we're going to label one, I don't think it'd be FIU. There's so much football talent in Florida. LSU at number 3. They beat LA Tech. I think it was 23-3. They may not be putting a lot on tape. I'm not sure, but that one didn't seem as lopsided as it should have. Oregon. Dan Lanning has something cooking in Eugene. Personally, I'm a fan of Dan Lanning. I saw a clip this morning before they went out and talking about some gasoline being poured on the fire. They didn't need any motivation, but they got some. I think he's got a bunch of dogs. He will always, from his days under Saban to under Coach Smart to the Oregon Ducks. Go Ducks. We'll have a national championship probably in the next 5 years if I had to put a time on it. There's so much Nike money, and call it what it is. Call it what you want. In today's generation, the flashiness, Oregon has, it's almost like Oregon has a tradition their tradition is to have different uniforms every year, where you have some programs where helmets the same and pants are the same, and they may throw an alternate in here, maybe here, but they're traditionally sound in what they're gonna dress out in. And yeah, it doesn't matter, it's all played between the lines. But kids nowadays, they like that flashiness, that swag. So I think that there are going to be some good kids, and I think Dante Moore's a good football player. So Oregon is gonna, they may be flying under the radar at the moment. Big Ten play starts, and they start. That's a big one to watch. Oregon has Northwestern, Oregon State, Penn State, at Penn State. I imagine at that moment, if I had to guess, here on September, first week of September, College game day is probably going to be at Penn State for Oregon at Penn State. Granted, that's everything goes well for them all the way up into week 5, it looks like. But doesn't look like they play Ohio State in the regular season this year. So we may get that matchup in the postseason again. Look like, but that big one for Oregon is going to be at Penn State. And they can get past Penn State. Big Ten looks wide open. They may see them in the Big Ten championship game. Granted, everything goes well. Down in Miami, Carson Beck and C.J. Daniels are going to watch. That connection, especially as they get better and more chemistry, those two, they're fun. Miami has a football team again. Again, you're in the ACC, so who are you really battling? You've got Clemson. I'm going to put Georgia Tech in that conversation, and Florida State. I may be missing one or two, but I think that that's probably the 4 that are going to be battling through the season. So that's going to be fun to see. Again, I'll stand on it. Carson Beck will put up over 4,500 yards this season. Simple as that. The kid is talented. He had a lot of drops last year at Georgia with a lot of pressure on him. Injury comes. I think him going to Miami, again, a lot of people don't like it, but I think that he's gonna put up numbers. There's no doubt about that. As long as they catch the ball. Will he make bonehead throws? Probably. But yeah, somebody like C.J. Daniels to go up and get it. Probably make bonehead throws too. Texas had a strong outing. The defense, a couple turnovers. Arch Manning, I think he threw for 5 touchdowns. Now, can be who they were playing, but it doesn't seem that the internet was as loud when he succeeded as loud as it was when he goes down. And I think that's just the world we live in. I think it was probably good for Arch to get some juice back under him. Ohio State, Texas both have good defenses. So we're talking a 14-7 game week 1. Notre Dame, I don't even think they played last week. I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they didn't play last weekend, and they still moved up in the polls. I think the only team that can move up after not playing. They got a big test this weekend, though. Texas A&M. This is going to be a mobile quarterback. It's a little bit different than the Miami game. So we're going to see Notre Dame there. Illinois put a beat down on Duke. I thought that was going to be a little bit better of a game. Wasn't. Once they got the wheels rolling, they kind of just they knocked the building down and kept rolling. Florida State is good. Tommy Castellanos is an absolute animal. If they are not favored to win the ACC at this very moment, they should be. I've not looked at the odds. They are electric. Now, is it momentum that they've got rolling? Maybe. They keep that rolling. Tommy Castellanos is fun to watch. I think the team believes in him. I think Coach Norvell believes in him. I really think that the firepower that they've got on that team, they have a shot to win the ACC, make it into the playoff, and make a run. So watch out for the Seminoles, and let's just be real. It's good for football when they have a good team. When that stadium is doing the tomahawk chop, they're a fun football team to watch. South Carolina beat NC State. Game day was in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, John Mateer is a guy. Bring the offensive coordinator in, which then inevitably brought in John Mateer. Oklahoma with Brent Venables' defense is sturdy. Or is Michigan just not? Bryce Underwood and Michigan just not what we were thinking going into the game? Was there a little bit of overhype? A lot of money spent on bringing him in. A lot of those boosters may be a little upset with how that game went out. I think it'll be good. He's 18. I think he just turned 18. Big. I think Michigan has a guy. May not be the season, which I think they may bounce back. They'll still win some games, and he'll learn. And they may be there at the end. Iowa State, Iowa in the Cyhawk Bowl. Almost as if this game is always going to come down to a game. And it did. And Iowa State, Rocco Beck is a good football player. The way he plays football is smart. Matt Campbell at Iowa State has a team that is pretty strong. So I think they're going to be there at the end. This might be the season for them. Make it into the playoff. And then jumping on down to number 15, Tennessee. And yes, I skipped Georgia because Georgia heads to Knoxville this weekend for a battle at Neyland. Now, I saw, which is everywhere, Tennessee's lost one game since 2021 at Neyland. That one game is Georgia. If we can flash back to when Stetson gave them the celly, where they leaked his number the night before, and then he scores and puts a beat down on them at home. So with Georgia, my question is, Gunner, Mike Bobo, Kirby, have they just been very vanilla so that what's on tape isn't a lot of what they can do and what they will do? Were they just getting out there against Marshall and Austin Peay to be physical, play the game, establish the run, screen passes, the bubble screens, take a few shots? Were they really not showing a lot of what? Because Gunnar Stockton is very football smart. Flashing back, I mean, he is a top quarterback recruit out of the state of Georgia when he came out of high school. He can read defense. I mean, we flash back to the SEC championship against Texas when he came in. He showed signs of deep balls and beauty. So is Georgia just not putting a lot on tape for Heupel and boys to study? Again, game day's headed to Knoxville. Going to be an electric atmosphere. Playing at Neyland is never easy. Joey Aguilar seems to be a guy. So we have a battle. I think with Georgia ranked at number 6, Tennessee at 15, the winner of this game probably going to be in the top 4, if I had to guess. Just due to opponent strength. Whoever loses this game, will it be a quality loss that they look back at at the end of the season, maybe. But the start of this weekend starts a gauntlet of schedule for Georgia. So at Tennessee, Alabama at home, they get Kentucky at home, who had a close one with Ole Miss. The game's always close. Then they head to Auburn, which, if you've listened to anything I've said, I'm really high on Jackson Arnold. I think Jackson Arnold is a stud. So that game's, once we get to October, I think that's going to be, we're looking at a top 10 matchup, if I had to guess. Ole Miss goes to Georgia, and then Florida. And then at Mississippi State, Texas at home, Charlotte, and then Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech, which Georgia Tech looks good. They play a Clemson team this weekend. Brent Key and Haynes King or Aaron Philo have a chance to beat. I think Brent Key has a motivated bunch of boys who are all on the same page when it comes to playing. I think Brent Key, again, having them in my top 4 in the ACC, there is a good shot. Georgia's going to have a tough opponent to finish out the season in that rivalry game that went to 8 overtime last year. Let's not forget. A&M, they beat Utah State. Ole Miss, like I said, close call in Lexington. That's always a close game. Ole Miss lost that game last year, which probably cost them their playoff hopes or chances. Jackson Dart needs to be the starter of the New York Giants. End of story. Jackson Dart is a dog. Jackson Dart is iced out on the sidelines, just waiting for Dayball to put him in. South Florida. I called this upset. I was texting my brother-in-law about this game Saturday morning. I got him at plus 625. South Florida is they just upset Boise. Don't think they were given enough credit for that. And then they go into Gainesville and beat the Florida Gators, the Billy Napier area. There's a chance of Fire Billy. He's hanging on to the play calling I saw this morning. Will he make it? Will he be there at the end of the season? We'll see. Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, and the Tide had a point to prove. Not even letting it be close was exactly what they needed to do to quiet down some of the noise, and they did. They went out and steamrolled. Utah Utes ranked 20th. The Utah Utes are... Devin Dampier is fun. He's electrifying on that football field. He's fun. He's West Coast, so I don't see him a lot, but I see the highlights, and kid's good. The Utes have a chance to be right where they need to be at the end of the season to be in the conversation. So I wouldn't hold them out of contender, especially with him at quarterback. Texas Tech. Has Texas Tech arrived? Has the NIL era in Lubbock finally shown its face? Are they here? Are they still coming? Texas Tech, what are they? We know everyone's heard the money they putting out, recruits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But have they arrived between the lines? Having them ranked at 21. We'll see as they move up or don't. Indiana, obviously they have the Fernando kid from Cal transferred. Are they still contenders? Is Kirk Cignetti, is he happier this year with the noise not being as loud? If I had to guess, probably. Because then you're able to focus, do more, be more, etc. And then Michigan drops to 23rd. I said it earlier. Is Michigan? They obviously can throw the ball this year. They've always been able to run the ball. But is this completely not their year? Are they going to be out of the top 25 in the next couple weeks? We'll see. As we get down to Auburn, I think Auburn is ranked a little too low. I'm sure that they're okay with that. Hugh Freeze feels like he's finally put something together. He's finally got something moving in the right direction at Auburn. So, with Jackson Arnold, I just think they're ranked too low at 24. I'm sure that they're okay with that. I'm stacking the chips. DeFreeze should use that as motivation. That should be his gasoline. I'm sure he will. And then Missouri at 25 rounds out week 2's or week 3's AP poll rankings. Missouri has a high-pace offense under Bo Pribella. Bo Pribella. That's how you would say it, hopefully. If not bad. But they have a high. I think that their offense is fast. And when they get to moving, I think they're fun. They're electric. Week 3 preview. We got some big football games this weekend. Georgia obviously headed to Knoxville. Talked about that here in the recap. What's going to happen there? Does Kirby continue his dominance over Tennessee, or is this Tennessee's time to put their foot on the gas? We're going to find out. College Game Day will be there. I'm sure Kirby is hoping for orange tees all across the board when they make their picks. We'll see. Colorado, I didn't talk about them in the recap because they're starting the third-string quarterback against Houston this weekend, so we'll see how that goes or how long it lasts. If it doesn't go right in the first half, how long does Dion keep him in the game before he goes back to Salter, or has Julian Lewis in the game? Clemson at Georgia Tech. Definitely think Clemson's on upset watch here. As I have talked about over and over, I think Georgia Tech has a football team this year. I think that they have plenty of firepower to stand with Clemson and hang with them. And Haynes King, if he's back, I haven't read enough about it. But even if they're starting Aaron Philo, I think there's enough out there to upset them at home. I expect Georgia Tech will probably be pretty loud. Wisconsin headed to Alabama. You've got USC headed to Purdue. South Florida and Miami. If South Florida can go into Miami, this does more than puts them in a great ride of the rest of the schedule to actually be a playoff team consideration at the end of the season with those two upsets, especially being on the road. But it also, you're talking Miami and South Florida. What does it do for the recruiting at South Florida if you go in and beat the Florida Gators and the Miami Hurricanes? The Bulls may get some recruits. I saw a top quarterback just committed to them yesterday or the day before after the upset to Florida. Arkansas headed to Ole Miss. Florida at LSU. That's a tough one after an upset like they had to go down to Death Valley and have to play the Nussmeier, Brian Kelly's Tigers. Good luck. That one's going to be does it get louder for Billy, or does it shut down all of the noise? Time will tell. I assume it's probably going to get louder. Texas A&M, Notre Dame, we talked about that one. Marcel Reed. I don't know if I have enough establishment from him to know if he's the guy. He can run out of this world. Passing, I think the consistency, but you do have Mike Elko there, and he'll have the boys ready So that'll be a good game. And then Vanderbilt heads into South Carolina. I think South Carolina's probably on upset watch here. With Vanderbilt doing what they do. Diego, again, the noise was loud. The SEC special they had on Netflix was loud for Vandy. There's not really been a lot of noise about them early. They just beat Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. So could they win this game? Sure. Gonna be a close one. Lenore Sellers may take over and do what he does, and he's probably gonna need to. There is a chance that Diego Pavia goes in there and does what he does. Takes over. And then is very loud about it. So we'll see. That'd be a fun game. So football is booming right now. That's what we want. That's what we need. Injected in our veins. We got a nice week 3 coming up. As always, stay safe. I'll catch you next week for the recap.
Beyond the finish line,